Hi there, this is Ronnie, Amber's Night, coming at you with a video. I was on drivethrurpg.com looking through stuff, and I found a campaign setting, a world book as they call it, called React, which is an acronym. It's basically a modern day setting of sort of superpowered people, not quite superheroes, but uh, sort of people using science and technology to fight the forces of evil. But what interested me about it wasn't so much the game, although it does intrigue me, um, was the fact that the game has been released for multiple platforms. You can buy the game either as a bundle with all three of these platforms, or you can buy them as the individual games. You can buy the world book that's compatible with D20, you can buy the world book that's compatible with True 20, and you can buy the world book that's compatible with Savage Worlds. And there is a scenario called The Abyss of Insanity, which again you can buy individually or buy the bundle with all three. And I found myself cheering it. I love this idea. It makes sense to me, and it makes sense to me as a gamer. Um, and it surprises me that this sort of thing hasn't happened more in the role-playing hobby. When I was young, 13, 14 years old, I got my first computer. This was way back in 1984, and it was a ZX Spectrum. Oh yes, I am that old. Now at the time, the other home computers, 8-bit home computers in Britain that were competition, they were competing, were the Commodore 64, the Amstrad CPC 464, the Acorn Electron, the BBC Micro B. But what would happen, smartly by all the main game companies, some of the independents would release maybe a game only for one computer specifically, but the main uh, games companies would release the same game but for multiple platforms. Obviously they would take advantage, tweak it for the particular specifications of a computer, but ultimately they would release the same game for the different platforms. This happened with the 16-bit computers when when the PCs first started to come in with the Commodore Amiga and the Atari ST, and it's continued on now with games being released on the PC, games being released on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. The same game tweaked here and there for the individual specifications, but ultimately the same game. And this is pretty much standard practice, and as gamers we accept it. We understand it, we accept it. And it made me think that perhaps, well, in my opinion, we should expect the same from our game companies as well, for role-playing. If I have a fantasy game, a campaign setting, and I'm going to release it, what tends to happen so far, with the odd exception like the Kerberos Club and this React Worldbook, just as examples. But what tends to happen is they will release it for one system only. It will be released for Savage Worlds. It will be released for Traveller. It will be released for Dungeons and Dragons. It will be released for Pathfinder. My thought is, why not release it multi-platform? If I have a campaign setting based on a fantasy world, and obviously if I've decided a new campaign setting, I'm going to make it unique for myself. There's going to be It's going to have a unique view and flavour. That's fine. Keep that unique view and flavour and keep all that flavour text. But when it comes to a crunch, release it for multiple platforms. For example, something like Sundered Skies, which at the moment is a Savage Worlds fantasy game setting. How about releasing the same game for D20? The only thing you really have to change, really, is the crunch, the actual mechanics involved, to augment them for D20 rather than Savage Worlds. Release it for True 20. Release it for Cortex. There are all these systems that can be used, and we should be doing this. We should be opening up our campaign settings for multiple platforms when we release them. I am seriously considering, because there's a Kickstarter running around for the third game in the Elite computer game series after Elite and Frontier. There's a new one called Dangerous coming. And I found my old Elite game for the Commodore Amiga, and I still have the instruction manual for it. And I'm seriously considering writing a campaign setting based on that first game. And I want to release it multi-platform because I think it's right. Now, either I release it as a full generic game without any crunch, which is one way of doing it, releasing it completely generically, and here's your setting, add your own crunch, or I release it multi-platform. Obviously, you're not going to release it for every single science fiction game out there, the same way you wouldn't release a fantasy campaign setting for every single fantasy game out there. That would be insane if you were going down the route of actually doing the stats. If you're using a generic system where you're not putting any stats in, then by all means just throw it out there and anyone with any game system can use it. But if you're going to put in stats, go for the biggies, or go for ones you think will be popular. For myself, for Elite, obviously Traveller, possibly D20, D20 Future, or Traveller 20 for that matter. D6 Space, which I would put in because a lot of people can get a hold of it, because it's free to download. Something like Space Master for people who still use it, be it the old system, be it for Privateer, or be it for Harp SF, which is the crunched down version. And getting the stat blocks for those, because they're all games I own on PDF or actual hard copy in the case of Space Master. And I like that. I like the idea of being able to do that. It's a good mental exercise for me. For a fantasy setting, why not release a fantasy setting that will sit on D&D 4th edition, 3.5 U0GL, Pathfinder, Savage Worlds, Harp, Rollmaster, I suppose, D6 Fantasy. Why not release for all these systems? They're big systems. A lot of people either have them or can have easy access to them, particularly in the case of something like D6 Fantasy, or even some of the retro clones like Dark Dungeons, which again are free to download. There's a lot of stuff out there that can be made available. I think companies are going to have to look at this, especially as the market has become, in a word, because of free RPGs, because there's so many games out there at the moment, the market is running the risk of being saturated. Coming out with a system specific campaign setting, a single system campaign setting, I think is ludicrous. I really do. In this day and age. In the old days when there really wasn't that much in terms of choice, you could get away with it. And a little bit of head scratching and you could probably turn one campaign setting or scenario to another system. But these days, with so much choice out there, I think it's smart for companies to do this. And I hope that Panic Productions, which are the ones who have made these particular ones, I hope they do more of these. I hope this is the standard by which they are going to release stuff. And I hope others follow suit. I think there's a lot to be said for it. So that's my thoughts. I want to see more of it. I want to see the campaign settings opened up for players from using different platforms. But what do you guys think? Come on back, let me know what you think. It'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on this one.